Hi there, my name is Dan, and welcome back to All One, the United Anatomy of Being. This is episode 11, and we have already revealed a few puzzle pieces, most importantly, the four primary levels of our being, impermanence or constant change, and balance on the physical level. This episode is called The Model of Physical Motion, Half the Story, and it is another important puzzle piece as we work towards building towards an understanding of the non-physical level, or the soul, and the wholeness or oneness of being. So, repetitive balance cycling, or this constantly revolving motion, is the model of movement and change once there is a physical manifestation of being on the physical level. However, on the physical level, it does not continue infinitely. And I do just want to take a brief moment here to discuss quantum physics, because it's very important to note that when referencing the models of motion on the physical level, this doesn't apply as similarly to quantum particles, which are the most fundamental building blocks of matter. The difference between the laws of physics and the laws of quantum physics, or this contradiction, is often an intellectual difficulty for scientists when referencing physical level motion to explore the entire topic of existence. Many scientists, or particularly physicists, or maybe more importantly, quantum physicists, take issue with this reference to help explore and explain existence, again, particularly due to what we know about quantum physics. But keep in mind that the physical senses and the mind are not our only tools for perception. And while only a feeling and thought based on the intersection of heart and mind consciousness, the difference in quantum laws from physical laws should not be that surprising, because quantum particles lie on the verge between the energetic levels and the physical level. They can move almost near the speed of light, often share both physical and energetic properties, and are the first and least stable level where energy is manifesting as matter or something physical. So just wanted to briefly get that out of the way, and back to the model of physical motion. So there was a time when your great-great-great-grandmother existed on this planet, and her breath cycled in and out in a constantly moving but very balanced way. But there was also a time before that when she did not exist in that physical manifestation, or in the arrangement of atoms, protons, electrons, and the even smaller physical building blocks. And there was a time after her breath cycled in and out for her entire lifetime that she ceased to be. Also, the Earth has been revolving around the sun for roughly 4.5 billion years, and it will continue to do so likely for many billion more. But there was a time when the Earth did not exist in the arrangement of atoms and molecules that enable it to be. And there will be a time when the Earth, in its physical manifestation of atoms and molecules that enable it to be, will no longer exist. So, on the physical level, there is always a creation or beginning of the manifestation. Then there is a journey, and then there is always an end or a dissolution. There is always a beginning, a middle, and an end on the physical level. There is always a beginning, a middle, and an end to this unique arrangement of the smallest atomic systems and their underlying energies that join together to manifest a physical existence. So from a two-dimensional perspective, it looks like this. It's an arcing graphic where there is a physical beginning or creation, a journey that rises up and falls towards a physical end or a dissolution. And this model, this is a very long-standing human and likely hominid point of view on existence. So long, long before humans knew anything about the motion of electrons, or even the existence of them for that matter, or the revolving motion of the Earth, or the motion of the planets around the sun, or the stars around galaxies, they observed what was available to see. And most obvious, and likely most important to their experience, they saw that the sun rises in the morning, arcs through the sky, and falls away into darkness at night. So here's another graphic to demonstrate that. Now, ancient human gatherers also realized there were seasons, and that certain fruits and vegetables were only available at certain times of the year. Much later, when humans first learned agriculture, they certainly realized they could not harvest all the time. The growing season began, plants rose up in growth, reached an apex in that growth, matured with the potential for harvest, and whether the harvest occurred or not, the plant often fell back to the earth. Of course, in this simple example, it varies by plant species and by geographical climate. We know that annuals die each year and only regrow from the new seeds of the previous plant, while perennials hibernate until the next growing season. Or an extreme winter climate affects a perennial differently than a mild climate, where a plant's growing season slows, but it may not necessarily disappear into the ground through the extreme winter. But either way, the general observable cycles are the same. There is a creation, a rise in growth to the apex or maturity of the journey, and then a fall with the potential for a harvest in this example, and then a return back to the source or earth. Regardless of the ancient perception or understanding of the motion of physical existence, there were certainly also full and repeating cycles to observe, because in truth, full and repeating cycles exist everywhere. When humans began to comprehend or connect the difference between the observable nature of a system and the full nature of a system is not known, but examples have always been available, such as the movement of breath, the unending repetition of sunrises, and the repetitive cycles of the moon or the seasons. Eventually, with increasing development of the mind and an increasing capacity for memory, they began to recognize patterns, or more of the whole story of this arcing motion, as evidenced by two of the oldest human symbols, the circle and the spiral. Even where they could not observe or fully understand the cause of full cycles, such as why the sun rises each day, they must have perceived that something more was happening than simply the observable top arc of this circular pattern. And again, as evidenced by ancient symbols like the circle and the spiral, or others that are less ancient but still thousands of years old, such as Mandela's, humans eventually understood or perceived something about this repeating circular nature of the movement on the physical level that looks more like this. But of course, the sun and the moon are not physically remanifested each day or month. They just exist. Even though early humans might have thought or felt differently at varying points in the development of the mind and our constantly changing understanding of physical existence, the sun is not created or recreated each morning. The sun exists and has for billions of years, much longer than the earth, and certainly much longer than human existence on it. And the human perspective of its model of existence and motion follows the same repetition of the constantly moving and very balanced motion described in the previous episode. But before it was understood that the sun is always shining, whether it can be seen or not, humans still likely viewed the model of the sun's existence as this arcing motion with a beginning or sunrise, a rising up through the sky towards an apex, a falling down towards an end or a sunset. And when they saw the sun, it existed, and when they didn't, When it was nighttime, the sun didn't exist. And even if early humans did perceive or have some understanding of the full circular cycle, the full cycle becomes very conceptual and difficult to grasp when one cannot actually observe it or know what happens during the unseen portion of it. So early humans likely still looked at the model of existence as a beginning or rise, a journeying middle, and an end or fall when it came to the things they couldn't physically observe through a full cycle. For the things they saw or knew were created but also eventually ended or ceased to be, the viewpoint of existence was likely and once again still this arcing motion with a beginning, a rising journey towards an apex, and a falling journey towards an end or a destruction or a dissolution. And humans have always observed creation around them. So have hominins. They saw bird eggs and hatchlings. They saw animals being born. They saw other humans being born or created on this physical level. They experienced creation or the beginning of life everywhere. They came to realize that even if they didn't see the beginning of a creation of a particular bird or animal or other human, or certainly have any memory of their own beginning, all these living beings were created into being with a beginning. They also very much and very often experience death and the end of existence on this physical level, when something that was either suddenly or slowly was no longer. So there is a finite beginning to physical existence, an uncertain journey through it, and a finite end to it. Early humans didn't know what happened after that, or so we think, and nor have most humans since, either individually or collectively as a species, despite our beliefs, religions, mythologies, stories, or teachings. Therefore, due to the inability to know for certain, the model of life we see and seem to understand most often and most clearly, because it is all that we can directly experience with our physical and mental tools of perception, is the top arc or top half of this natural circular cycle. A beginning, an uncertain journey or middle, and an end. Again, this is a very basic and long-standing human understanding of life. And evidence of this can be found in one of the most fundamental human activities of storytelling. Human stories, or at least ones we consider to be good or satisfying, have beginnings, middles, and ends. Songs, poems, plays, and even jokes are not considered complete or satisfying unless they have a solid beginning, middle, and end. And storytelling is a completely unique human trait. And humans have been telling stories to share and better understand life and the world around them from the time they first began communicating through to the development of more formal oral languages and through to the development of formal written languages. The beginning, middle, and end, as the human understanding of life and existence, has been in place for hundreds of thousands of years, if not longer. And in our modern existence, it can be observed most ubiquitously or most commonly in the three-act model of almost every movie we watch or every book we read. There is a beginning that starts the story and sets the stage, an uncertain middle or journey as the story arcs, and a resolution to it all and an end. This fundamental artistic model developed entirely from the human perspective, experience, and comprehension of the reality of physical motion and existence. So with that said, and despite best understanding the top arc of a full circular cycle, it would also be entirely unfair to say that humans did not understand, or at least perceive something of existence in a fuller or more complete way. Many individuals and cultures have perceived that nothing just starts and stops. To reiterate, there has always been and always will be physical evidence in nature indicating cycles repeat in a balanced way, even if only half of the cycle can be directly witnessed or experienced. So even though individuals or groups throughout time have not known or may not have known, nor were able to explore with any direct experience what happened after the end of a physical existence, at some point they felt that something else must happen after the end, because there was plenty to experience around them that moved like this, in a circular pattern, in circular motion. It's also important to note the difference between knowing and feeling, or knowing in the mind and feeling in the heart. While the top arc can be observed and experienced, and thus known, the bottom or inverted arc is a complete mystery for cyclical systems in which only the top portion can be observed. And the further back in time in the development of the human species, the less that was known with any certainty about the physical world which was experienced. More of everything was a complete mystery, and humans had and relied more on feelings to reconcile those unknowns, and certainly respected this mysterious bottom arc. Consider some human civilizations several thousands of years ago, such as the Egyptians or the Incas, or any culture that buried their dead with tools and supplies for what was next after life, or the end of their observable top arc. Or think of early human tribes who prayed to and worshiped the mysterious unknown in the forms of the sun, or the moon, or rain, or the harvest, or the specific animals on which they relied for sustenance. So it's completely true that the motion of physical existence follows this top arcing model, but it is only half of the truth or half of the story, because it is also true, or the whole truth, that the model of motion for everything in physical existence is circular and repeating. The more humans focus only on the physical journey that can be directly experienced and is seemingly the only critical factor towards our physical survival and success, the less capability and capacity for awareness we have for the mysterious other half of our story. And this is what we are working toward understanding in this series, and it won't be long before we get there. But also then, the less complete we become if we are not giving awareness or understanding this bottom arc or this other half of existence. The less complete we become, meaning the less completely equipped we are for success and survival as both human individuals and as a species. So, what is the primary point of this, and what is the bottom or inverted arc of existence? We're going to get to those explanations shortly. The point to reiterate now is that most humans have never fully understood the whole story of existence, and I'm speaking generally. But long ago, there was at least a greater respect that the top arc of existence might not be all there is. As humans further and further developed the mind and gained immense knowledge about the physical level, there has been diminishing attention to an awareness of that bottom or inverted arc, or the other half of the story of existence. Said differently, with more complexly developing minds comes increasing reliance on knowledge at the expense of feeling to explain and understand the mysteries and unknowns of the full story of existence and being. And essentially, the more humans have developed the mind and increased our immense understanding of the physical world, the less complete we have become. So let's continue to explore the seemingly unknown. And in the next chapter, we're going to cover a familiar topic, the Big Bang, or the start of the entire physical universe, which will be another important puzzle piece as we work towards a full understanding of the united anatomy of being the singularity of being and the wholeness and oneness of being. So thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.